Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Global Conservation Force. I'm excited to have Natasha Folander on with us. She is our GCF Anti-Poaching K9 Units Project Coordinator. So she handles the admin and project execution for all of our canine efforts and our canines themselves. So Natasha recently just spent several months in South Africa with our Malinois team and actually got stuck that side in South Africa during the world's lockdown. And recently came back, helped us just in time for the gala, and is now looking to return back to the field. But in the meantime, she's been working on different programs and projects with us so we can better support our canines and the other anti-poaching canine units that we support across Africa. So welcome, Natasha. Thanks for joining us. I know it's been pretty busy, but maybe we could just start with how you got started with GCF. When did you get started, and how did you get started?
It was a couple years ago, and I heard about GCF, and so that's kind of where it got started there. After doing some research, I was like, hey, this looks like fun to volunteer with, something to do. And then after a while, it started becoming very much of a passion of mine. And then when I became the Gcf K9 Coordinator, it became a very large part of my life. So it's, I really love being a part of GCF and doing everything with the canines and being a part of it.
Awesome. Well, we're stoked to have you on the team. So for those who are not familiar, GCF, we have different layers of roles and responsibilities. And the first main layer within the team is a conservation officer. You're trained and onboarded so that you know what we do, what we believe, and how we work on our projects. And then above that, we have project coordinators like Natasha. So earlier this week, you saw Sally and Roxanne, and you'll see other project coordinators hop on for interviews. And then above that, we have directors, and we also have our field instructors. So everybody's working as a volunteer in the external factor outside of the field, and that helps us get the most funds possible to the field so we can support our projects. And so Natasha, what does it look like as a project coordinator? I mean, kind of what are the varied roles you've had? Because I mean, some people think like, oh, project coordinator, I'll only work on this project, or you know, maybe explain what you've done throughout the last year so people can understand what a project coordinator does.
Yeah, so when I started as just a regular volunteer, you're taking part in a lot of events. You kind of come and you go and you take part in what you feel like taking part in. Every once in a while you do an event or you do something. But then when you become a project coordinator, it's a little more involved. You spend a little more time on things, and it's the project you work on as a coordinator is something that's special to you. So like the canines, as the canine project coordinator, that's what I focus on. But I still do like the gala. Like we all, even if you're a project coordinator, a regular volunteer, if you're whoever you are, you're at the gala working the event. So you have your own special projects that you work on, and you're kind of, I don't want to say in charge, but you're coming up with your own ideas, coming up with your own projects. You're kind of doing your own individual thing, but then you also come together as like a large team and a large group whenever there's events or large projects or anytime someone else needs help with anything.
Yeah, I think that's what's really cool with like, especially the people who've been on the team a lot longer. You might end up helping out with the environmental science project coordinators, or you might help the elephant project coordinator or the Canine dogs project coordinator, or they're going to help you, or you might be in contact with the GCF field instructors who are going to be coming past where the canines are, or you're going to relay to the instructors what the canine units need on top of what the canines need. And then you directly kind of help me manage all of our project partnership relationships by being always available to communicate with them, and then helping me focus on what we need to work on in the next couple of months, and what's next. And the changes we may need to make to kind of adapt to that.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is helping each other out because, I mean, just as an individual person, it's tough to come up with new events and new ideas all the time. So it's nice to have other project coordinators. Like we'll get together and we chat about what ideas we have and kind of brainstorm what we can do to fundraise or just fun events or just fun posts for social media. We get together and we do all that together too. And then, like when I was in South Africa, I worked really closely with our canine trainer out there, and that was really, I think, helpful for a lot of people because then we had somebody who could relay information about our canines that they didn't know. So it's tough when we're in the United States and they're in South Africa. And I mean, we have our trainer and we have our partners out there, but there's always having that firsthand knowledge of our canines and what's going on out there as well.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, like you said, having that familiarity with the communication and the contact person, the relation between the donors is really important. But then, like, also, you know, if you're out there in the field, I don't think everyone understands like how busy that can be. Even if you're just focused on training canines, like your day could be running around in the heat, changing collars, leashes, harnesses, moving canines around. You know, you're not necessarily having time to sit down and just like write emails. You're gonna be out there in the elements, and then after an 8-hour day, you come back and you're somewhere where there's actually Wi-Fi again, and then you're like, okay, now I got to hit like 25 emails and maybe 50 WhatsApp messages, and it's a very involved process. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about, I guess what running up to you going out to South Africa. We had our GCF Malinois, Denali being the mom, and they're born in San Diego, and we raised them here with the volunteer crew, which I think was just shy of 2,000 hours of volunteer project hours involved to get Denali to San Diego, which included me driving back and forth across the U.S. a couple times, building a kennel with our crew that was suitable for all weather, because it was at the tail end of winter going into spring. So San Diego, generally, it's going to be, you know, a mildly cold winter, but it can also get wet and it can get really hot. So we needed to build something that was going to be good for them for 3 to 5 months. And then we had the really difficult job of staging them to ship to South Africa, and we needed to time out, you know, the correct temperatures, age groups, vaccination. South Africa is extremely hard to import animals into because they've adapted Australia's wildlife import regulations, but they have a very South African team handling that paperwork. So there's a lot of dead ends and roadblocks. So you were there for all of that. All the kennel shifts, all of the daily kind of assessments and enrichment for the dogs and all that stuff. And then the puppy breakfast we had, which helped us, thanks to the donors who sponsored the names of the founding Malinois that helped cover their main costs to get them out to South Africa. And from there, we started kind of setting up your timeline to go to South Africa, which was based on providing admin backup to the canine training crew and our partners out there, as well as preparing for the professional development program that we had for people to come out, but then the world closed.
Yeah. Yeah. So
in stage, Natasha landing in South Africa, and then within days, the world is locking up.
Yeah. So after I got there, I was there about a week before we got a message from the community where I was staying. Basically, if you need to go home, get out now, else you're not leaving. And there was a point where it was like, well, I've only been here a week and it was a very long trip here. So I guess I'm gonna stay. Like, it can't get that bad, right? Like, who knew? So
Yeah.
basically, like, it's not gonna get that bad. And then kind of as we went, it turned into like, well, I guess I'm here now.
Right.
Here for the foreseeable future.
And we had visa set up for, was it 9 months, right? For this first section?
6 months. Yeah, I had it set up. Actually, maybe it was 7. Yeah, till October it was set up. It was set up for a while just in case, and it ended up being incredible because it would have been a tough situation to. I know they extended some visas and stuff, but it would have been stressful to not have it.
Yeah. So what was your daily life once you were there? I mean, obviously you worked with Our Canines, you worked with Christian, and you worked with the K9 Canines as well, and the Wild Canines.
Yeah.
So what was a normal day at the kennels like?
Yeah. So usually we train in the morning and we train in the late afternoon just because in the summer there it gets really hot and so they can't train in the middle of the day. So we were just kind of keeping to that schedule. But we'd go over and like you mentioned before, a lot of running. Pretty much every day is running because you got to train with the dogs. You got to be able to keep up with them. So it is a lot of running, but it's you're tracking and trailing. Some days you do bite work. It just kind of depends on what we want to work on for the day or for the week. But in the morning, you go out and you go take the dogs out of the runs. You start some training. If you want to do trailing, then sometimes we take them to another area so they can trail somewhere new or to a different area of the camp. Then bite work, we usually just stay at the camp and do. But we train our canines, and then we also would train with the Kilo 9 canines. And sometimes we had volunteers from the outside come in and train with us. So we all had some helping hands that way too. A lot of people actually got stuck in South Africa because of the lockdown. And so they didn't really have anything to do. And so we had a lot of people that just were there with nothing to do and willing to help. So we had a lot of runners for our trailing, a lot of for our dogs to track. It was really helpful. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think too, like, so like, how do you athletically describe Malinois?
They're I love Malinois, but and I'm sure you know with Odin there, they are a force of nature. They have a little bit of like a destructive streak in them, but like it's the most adorable destruction ever. So like you can't even get mad about it. But like they're very different from regular dogs. And I don't know if I quite knew that going into it, but then when we're tracking and trailing and doing bite work and it they really do care about their trainers. They love you. They don't hurt you on purpose. But being Malinois and being big dogs, you do tend to get a little scraped up sometimes. But just the energy level of them is insane. I've never seen that before in dogs. Like with our girls, you can put them in the dog runs, which is just a length of grass that they can run up and down. And then they have the dogs next to each other so that they can kind of see each other and run with each other. So you put them in the runs and they'll run up and down for a long time. And then you take them out and you go take them on a trail or you take them tracking or you do bite work. And then you're exhausted and done and hot and tired and they're still running circles around you. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
They're definitely, yeah, they're, I mean, when it comes to working dogs in general, I mean, this is going to be kind of your norm. And I think what sometimes people make the mistake of like, okay, a Malinois is this really stoic, handsome breed. They're loyal. They look like German Shepherds, but they have like 50 times the energy of a normal German Shepherd. And they really don't want to stop working at any time, which is, as a handler and someone who's going to be training them, you need to know when to actually help them stop because they'll keep pushing and they don't care about the heat and they don't, well, they do care about it, but like they'll push through it until it's actually kind of hazardous for them. You got to be careful about when you give them the reward ball, how do you throw it? Because if it bounces and it goes into like thorny acacia, or if you're near a fence, you got to be careful about them running. I mean, like they just like they see a task and they go for that task, and that's how, like, you know, when they're playing with you, they're like, oh, we're gonna play, and it's super rough, and they end up beating you up, and that's just a normal day. They grab a stick, they're happy and frolicking, and they take your ankles, your legs out. I mean, all that happens, right?
Yeah, we had one of the dogs at the kennels there. He's a big dog, and he grabbed this like 10-foot log and was running through the camp with it, just knocking out everyone's knees and ankles. And that's what I mean. Like, it's so hilarious, but like extremely dangerous. Like they have no sense of like self-preservation. So like you tell them to do something and they're gonna do it no matter what it is. So
right. Just go right through it.
Yeah, they'll go right through it.
Speaking of, Odin tried to just play a musical instrument for us right here, which I had to like snag it. I tried to grab it before you got it, and then had to take that there.
Well, now you're playing. If you try to grab it from him, now it's playtime.
now I'll take it back.
Yeah, but I do have a clip of us running a trail with, I believe it's it'd be Becca.
Becca, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and play it so we can talk about it and kind of share what's happening in that video.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk everybody through what's happening right there? Because I mean, obviously I know what's going on, and so do our canine followers. But you know, to the average person watching, I mean, kind of help break it down there. What are we seeing?
Yeah. So just before we started recording that, the person that you saw hiding in the bushes there, he was standing with us. And so what he does is he'll drop an article like his hat or sunglasses or shirt, something he was wearing that smells like him. He'll drop that. And what we do is we make it so the dog can't see where he's running. Like we'll just cover their eyes or turn them the other way or stand behind a car or something. And the person will run and go hide. And then we have our dogs smell the article, and then they go and find the person. It's like a game of hide and seek, but it's trailing somebody. So the point is if we had an article of clothing, let's say a poacher had dropped, then we can trail and find that poacher, basically track them down.
And so why is it important to train this in the outdoors and train this in variable settings? I mean, what happens what happens with the canines? Like why do you need to make it fun? Like is you know, what's the personality behind everything here?
Yeah, so it's important to do it in different areas just because you never know what they're going to come across in any situation. So if you're only training in grass, let's say you're only training them in grass, and then when they need to actually go track down somebody, they have to do it on stone, or they have to do it on concrete, or they have to do it in dirt. It's a very different situation. And so if you're not teaching them how to respond to all those situations, then they're not going to be able to do it. You can't expect them to just know how to do something just because you taught them how to do it this one way. So it's really important to teach them anything you can think of that might come up. Or would a poacher go through the water? Would they hide in a tree? Would they hide behind a bush? Would they hide in the tall grass? You really have to think of basically every situation that you might come across and train them to do that. I know a lot of our dogs, I think recently they were working on finding the smell of like ammunition and rhino horn inside cabinets or on top of cabinets. And it's really tough because you have to teach them that if you're searching a house, like you have to search every cabinet, you have to look in the drawers, you have to look under the bed. And so like if you take them home at the end of the day, just because we give them breaks and they'll come home with the trainers sometimes. But if you take them home and they're jumping on the table and jumping on the bed and doing sniffing in all your cabinets and stuff, you can't tell them no. Because then when you put them in that situation in a house where you want them to search there, they're not going to do it. So you really, it's tough to have a balance there, but you really have to teach them every situation you can think of in order for them to be prepared for when they actually have to do it. And then with our GCF canines, they do have very different personalities. And so it depends on what they like best, changes what prize they get at the end of their trail. So just in that video, Becca was trailing one of our volunteers. He was also stuck in South Africa during the lockdown. So he was there volunteering with us. And he threw what's a bite pillow. And so it's just a small square little pillow with handles on the side of it. And so the dog can bite it and you can hold it. But in that case, since he's just a volunteer, we just had him throw it. Necessarily want him getting bitten or anything. But also in that clip, what I really like about that clip is that he throws it and he throws it into the tree on accident. And like Becca just dives straight in to grab it. So
yeah, there's no hesitation.
Yeah, you can throw it literally in a thorn bush and they will still jump into that thorn bush. So you do have to be so careful where you throw it. Like if you have a bouncy ball, you can't just toss it in the air. And what I learned very quickly, you cannot throw it up in front of you because they will jump into your face.
Yeah, they'll smash you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like personality is a fun one because essentially if you boil like all of these training tactics down, everything is a variation of a game and a stimulus that they want to do, right? So like you're building on their motivation and you're reinforcing their motivation with play, and then you're careful not to correct things that need to be important for like the job line itself. Another thing that I think is easily missed is it's extremely important to train these dogs in the actual habitat or something exactly similar to that habitat that they're going to be working, because a canine that's working in a city or is working in an airport has its set of distractions. So all the different food and all the different people, all the different smells, and that's naturally going to be something that's curious to them. But in the bush, it's the big animals, it's the darting animals, it's the fast birds, it's all the different things that are alive. And they need to keep focused on the task at hand when you literally might track into a giant group of elephants, or you might have to go through impala, or you have to stop because there's a black mamba, or there's a pride of lions, or whatever it is. There's going to be a lot of variables. So the dogs have to get used to that as well, because there are predators that may be dangerous for you and the canine themselves. There's the poachers themselves and the vehicle searches that are different variations. But like all of these scenarios and games help these canines over time become robust live field canines.
And sorry, one of the things I just want to chime in real quick. We try not to train with food, which is really important, especially for our canines and the canines in South Africa, is because if what we've been seeing is that poachers will drop poisoned food, and if the dog eats that, they could die. So we try really hard not to train with any type of food, just so they're not thinking like, when I'm tracking and there's a piece of food, it's a reward, I can eat it. So we try really hard not to do that. And then also one of the other things you mentioned, if you have to stop, that's something we have to train as well. If you have to stop in the middle of a trail because of a snake, because of a road, because any reason, if you have to stop, we need that canine to know that we may not be done. You can stop here, but we're also going to just take a second, but then you also have to pick it back up again. So that's another really tough thing to train, because a lot of times when you're done, you give them the ball and they're done and they're good for the day. But when you're trailing live, it doesn't always work like that. So you have to be prepared for that as well.
Exactly. So one of the things that comes to mind now is, okay, so we've got our canines. We support over 30 different anti-poaching units and their canines. Odin's showing off here. And so I guess it comes down to now, why are canines important? So we've supported canine anti-poaching efforts across Africa since, basically the crest of 2014-15. And, they're not just dogs on duty. They are a morale builder for the team. They make the team a lot more efficient. Response times and their tracking and their search and seizure in the detection of illegal substances or weapons and ammunition at checkpoints. I mean, they really boost the field of conservation and wildlife protection. But I think what another thing is not every dog is suited for duty. One of the things is we have our Malinois team. There are a lot of other Mals in the field. There are German Shepherds. There are Labs. There are rescue mutts that are out there working on different projects, which they're equally as great. But we have a Bavarian Hound, Thor, who's on the team. And if you want to share a photo of him real quick, we went with a Bavarian Hound over a Bloodhound just because of size, how they handle the heat, how they handle allergies and different conditions in the field. But tracking and long distance or older scents to track, because the variability of the field, the difference in anti-poaching versus military or even police in some instances is you're not going to be able to just pick up a canine and drop them in the field. You're going to have to start somewhere on ground, potentially leapfrog. So you might initially pick up a scent with the Malinois and realize, okay, we need to put something a lot more adapt for this, a personality trait and a breed trait. Thor, he's going to be a lot more hammered into this scent, or a different hound. And then use the Malinois for the suspect apprehension side. And also in the distance and the heat and the conditions, we may need to rotate several dogs based on how far it is. We get asked oh, why isn't there a dog here? Or why isn't the dog doing this? Usually it involves infrastructure. Is there a vehicle to move that dog? Is there a canine that's within reach? Can the unit actually afford a canine? Do they have a canine? There's other things come into play. And that's where we work on multiple layers in Global Conservation Force. So we're not just, buying and training our own canines for the field. We are supporting everything from building up units that need to be ready to host canines to funding the handling certificates for trained certified handlers so that they can actually be qualified to handle a court case and the canine in the field. And then the other side of it, we're raising our canines and providing gear, and then we're providing field training courses like the field first aid course for the canine handlers who need to know how to respond, because they, at the end of the day, are the lifeline for their partner, the canine partner, and if anything happens, they're the ones that have to respond. So you're looking at Clive here, a little flash. That's okay. Clive is an English lab. He's training with our partners up in the Netherlands right now, and Clive is going to be working on basically tracking endangered species. We won't release too much of it yet, but it's going to involve pangolins and endangered turtle species, and that won't be in Africa. But so when it comes to all these different variable levels, canines, again, they serve multiple roles, but the infrastructure to get there is very costly. And this is something that we don't actually have in the field of conservation. Usually, you're sacrificing one thing for the other, or the unit might have to, which is why we step in. So Natasha, maybe you could talk a little bit about handing off all the gear this year and all the different handlers that we got equipment to. And this year we supported and or provided training for over, I think it was 60 handlers and canines this year, because the first quarter was 46, and then we had a big pause because of everything getting shut down. But then it was the canine units course and getting ready for everything else. So maybe you could share what that's like, being able to fundraise, carry the gear, be a part of the training, and then we had some success stories after that canine first aid course.
Yeah, yeah, it's really different when you're here, you're raising money, you're fundraising for this project, and then actually seeing it in action is very different. It was an incredible experience to be able to see it all the way through. And I know a lot of people when people donate or sponsor to our dogs, our dogs are cute, our dogs are fun. It's easy to show that, but it's very different when you go and you meet the handlers, and the handlers are just so incredibly thankful for everything we do for them. And it's an incredible experience. You raise money for them, and then getting to hand in person it over to them was amazing. Everybody I saw, everybody we gave anything to was always just so thankful for it, and repeated. They wanted us to make sure everybody knew how thankful they were. It was really cool. Yeah, we took a little bit of a road trip over to the Eastern Cape, and we got to deliver some gear over there, and that was an interesting experience all in itself, just getting there, because it's a very long drive. But one of the things I wanted to share about that trip was I went with the trainer from Kilo 9, and he was bringing one of his trained dogs over to one of the handlers there. And I wanted to share that because the relationship between the canine and their handler is very unique. It's a working relationship. I'm sure it's a lot like a police officer with his working dog. It's their dog. They don't think of it as like, oh, this is someone else's dog and they're just here. It's their friend. It's their buddy. It's their dog. It's their family. They love that dog. I still keep in touch with some of the handlers over there, and every time I talk to them, he's always sending me pictures and videos of the dog and how he's doing and what his personality is like as he grows. And it's his family. If something's wrong with him, then it's part of them. And the dogs, this particular handler, the dog sleeps with him at night, goes everywhere with him. It's his best friend. And I think the thing it changes the most is the morale. I mean, if you're out there every single day in the bush walking around, it's hot, it's hard, it's not a whole lot of fun. But if you have your dog with you, you have your buddy, you have your best friend on the trail with you every day, it's not as bad. And there's always somebody watching your back. That was a big part of it too. A lot of people said that it's like having another person there, except they can smell better, they can hear better. And if their dog reacts to something, then instantly they know something's wrong. It's a sense of, it's a safety net for them. So it makes a huge difference. And a big part of that also was that vet program we did, the vet training, the first aid course, there we go. The first aid course for the canines that we did. That made a huge difference for a lot of handlers there. We basically just set up a class. We had a vet come in with a few of his like vet techs, I think they were. And they came in and just talked about like heat stroke and how to bandage a wound, how to take care of a snake bite, if they hurt their ear, if they, it basically a lot of really common things that can happen in the bush with their canine. We just had a whole class on it and taught them how to do it. We had interactive part of it, and I was there with them when we did it, which was awesome because I love to learn canine first aid stuff. But it was really cool. We had like part presentation, and then we did part hands-on. So we had some lucky canine volunteers that came and were really chill with people being hands-on. and we got to practice wrapping their leg with a bandage, and we even practiced wrapping some of their heads in the bandage in case like their ear got hurt or something like that. And the dogs actually really loved it. They loved all the attention they were getting. But it was really cool to be able to do that for them. And then we ended up with some success stories out of that, in that a couple of the canines that came to the course did get hurt. I think we had I don't know the professional term for it, but like turned tummy.
The torsion, yeah.
Yeah, and so they because of our canine first aid training, they realized what was going on. They took him to a vet right away, and the dog lived because of that.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, there's two sides of that. There's the side that, one, the life was saved, and that's huge for the handler and the canine. But the amount of time it takes that unit to actually get to having a very stable, very well-trained canine, it's a catastrophic loss if you lose one, not only emotionally, but as a project and safety kind of thing. Like you said, morale is impacted. Motivation is a big thing too. You know, a lot of rangers are out for multiple days at a time, or they're going to be on patrol multiple days consecutively, and it's hot, it's uncomfortable. You know, you're sacrificing a lot, and if you you don't want to lose your canine at any set, but when you can feel comfortable that you can keep them safe, it helps you push past, some of those little thresholds that, maybe you held back on before, or you're not as afraid anymore. And in that situation, that was a big, big save. And then we had another one that basically had a torn pad that was easy. It was stabilized and moved. But again, it takes the fear out of it and anxiety of like, what if something happens? How do I save my canine? I'm in the middle of nowhere, and help is 4 or 5 hours away maybe. And, so that course was really cool. We'll be doing more of those courses, and they'll be vet led, and there'll be text and hands-on. The course is designed to be part classroom for a small part, and then full interactive for the handlers themselves, so that they can encounter. And this is catered to every region, so it also includes things like the parasites and a couple of the other local illnesses that they can get, and how to be careful with that. And that was, again, made possible by our canine donors, which our canine donors can adopt a one-time adoption and get the adoption kit, or they can become a reoccurring adopter or sponsor. And they have brought life into all these new efforts that we had hoped to get to, but now we can consistently maintain and support for units across the globe working in conservation. And it's saving lives, and it's changing lives for the better, and it's making real impacts for conservation. This isn't, just an idle project that just, goes into a stash, and, there's real lives impacted on the other side of this, which is really cool. I'm going to share a quick adoption tab here, so you guys can visit those if need be, or if you'd like. Of course, you can also see these things on all of our social media. If you click the links, we host a link tree that has access to the adoption programs, the sponsorship programs. We hope to have events in the near future again. They'll be safe by all standards, but one of the ones we're talking about is hosting another canine breakfast, and where we can raise funds for basically everything we lost throughout this last year and how hard fundraising was, as well as the Canine Professional Development Program. Maybe we can talk about that really quick, because that's also something that's really cool. That, I mean, there are very few programs even remotely similar to it. So maybe you could share a little bit about that and what we have planned.
Yeah. So the Canine Development Program, it is kind of geared towards to people in the animal profession, but you don't necessarily have to be like vets and people that work with the wildlife and stuff. But you're basically going to do what I did when I went over there, when I got stuck there. But you work with our canines, you'll see how to train them, like what their daily life is like. It's most likely not going to include a lot of cleaning. They usually have a
kennel person there. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know, call them a kennel tech there, but a kennel person who comes and cleans the kennels. So that's not what the program's about. The program's to learn how to train working canines, specifically anti-poaching canines. And I wanted to share, I have a few pictures of us doing that. But this is Kessa doing some bite work there. You don't have to do the bite work if you don't want to. We're not going to force anybody to wear the bite sleeve. But one of my favorite parts is holding the dog when someone's doing bite work. So you can also do that part of it. But then there's also a lot of different parts to it. If I can figure out how to stop sharing that screen, then I can show you another picture. Let's see, I think we have one of Nala and one of Reaper as well. This one is Reaper. This is some trailing. So it's definitely a hands-on program. You get to hold the leash. You get to train with them.
Scenarios live in the field.
Right. Yeah, and there's also the added bonus of if you wanted to do some extra outings, then that could possibly be an option. That's completely up to you if you wanted to do that. But I just wanted
additional programs that options that may include being able to participate in veterinary wildlife procedure programs and daily visits to other facilities that can be arranged that are within the area. Of course, game drives and whatnot. But yeah, this program is pretty cool because I mean it's a real immersive training program. So whether you want to actually go to Africa and be a part of a real program and get hands-on experience and come back with, you know, an actual certificate that means something, or if you want to go and see Africa through a different lens and you're going to be supporting our efforts through directly participating, but also the funds raised from that project help us maintain our canine units and efforts. And I mean, it's a lot of fun. The entire crew is really fun to work with. A lot of good people. There's really good food in this area too, which is kind of funny. There's good food to enjoy later in the days, and there are a lot of amazing wildlife and or wild landscapes to visit within the region. Just the nature of that entire greater Kruger area is just amazing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people might the hearing about South Africa. I think a lot of people are a little bit wary of going there, but it's definitely not what everyone thinks it is. You're not. I mean, there are some poorer areas, but you're not living in a grass hut. You're not walking on the dirt. You're driving in the car on the other side of the road. You're driving on the cars, but there's restaurants, and like you said, the food is really good. You do get some experience in the bush. So you get a portion of it where you get like the dirty, gritty side of it, where you're working with the canines in the bush and you're running through the trees and there's monkeys over here and giraffes over here and stuff. You get a very like adventurous part of it, but also you go home and you sleep in a really nice soft bed. It's not, you have your shower. Like it's not as bad as people think. Yeah, it was definitely a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. So it'll be nicer than you think it is.
Yeah, and we're also talking about, you know, having 2 locations to work, not just in the Greater Kruger, also the Eastern Cape, which also has lots of gorgeous views, the same kind of wildlife, different type of wildlife setting, but still absolutely gorgeous, with lines that are nearby. And so there'll be a variety of different types of, I guess, wildlife adventures to take. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're participating in a real conservation project, you're supporting our conservation canines and efforts, and you're getting to actually visit Africa through a different lens. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it's
it's
pretty.
much different than being here. Like the experiences that you really take for granted, like it's when one of my favorite parts of being there was like you just go for a walk, just like here you go for a walk and maybe you'll see a squirrel or a rabbit, something like that. But like you go for a walk there and you're just walking amongst the giraffe and the warthogs and the zebra, like and all kinds of different antelope. Like it's a really incredible experience. And that's just going for a walk. You go for game drives, you go with the canines, you're in your car, like you're gonna see some incredible stuff. It's amazing. It's definitely worth it. You're fundraising for us, you're helping us, but also it's just an incredible experience.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and I'm excited to, I guess, pick up pace again and be able to offer the programs. I mean, we're also going to be offering the mounted anti-poaching units professional development course this year as well, and it's hands-on with the mounted unit, the GCF dedicated mounted unit, and you're going to be able to do the same kind of thing: volunteer alongside the horses, the riders, get field time, participate in the daily needs of the patrol, so fence lines and setting camera traps and being able to volunteer your time, and maybe they're going to be doing community work. We're going to build in wildlife veterinary procedures on that one as well, and then different types of daily adventures, if you will. But I mean, these programs are, again, they're more for the person looking to have hands-on conservation experience and an adventure, and it's still going to be comfortable. But if this isn't going to be your lodge stay, and this isn't going to be your, I just, dropped 10K to sleep for 7 nights at this 5-star, it won't be anything like that. But you'll be able to enjoy many of the same things. And the nice thing is too, you can reach out to Natasha about the program, and you can get pictures and videos and a real education on what that's going to be. And there's going to be a support staff, so you're not just going to be, left to arrive in Africa and then not know what to do. You'll be given an outline, and you'll be greeted by our teams. And if you're going on the Canine project, your chances are you're actually going to be working alongside Natasha out in South Africa, which will be pretty cool. But I think with the timeline and questions, we can kind of wrap it up now.
Yeah,
if you guys have go ahead, Natasha. Sorry.
I just wanted to show them how to get to see, if they wanted to see that program brochure. It's on our GCF website. You just go to projects, go to anti-poaching canines, and then down below we have our donate page, but then also down below the Canine Professional Development Program, and you can take a look at that brochure. Super simple.
Awesome. That's great. And like I said too, if you guys want to see in the social media posts or on Instagram, we have a link tree that hosts a direct application to that project. You do have to apply. We do have a screening process. We like to keep it for quality over quantity. And so with that said, most people are going to be just fine. We're just checking for your basic no-goes like criminal record or substance abuse. We don't need that on the project sites, since this is going to be working collaboratively with anti-poaching efforts and our field canines and animals. But with that said, we would like to say thank you guys for joining, and we hope you enjoyed our canine banter today and all of our discussions. If you guys haven't noticed already, we have been posting about our more recent canines on adding to the team, and we are still trying to move through our adoption kits, which are helping us fund some of the initial programs in the start of 2021. And of course, with the year coming to a close, all donations are tax deductible, and you can actually choose specifically to donate to the canines if you'd like, or you can donate to our other efforts individually, or if you want, you can just send it to the general fund. Other ways to support would be to swap your Amazon Smile to support GCF, or you can throw a birthday fundraiser for GCF in the meantime. And if you're looking to join the team and help us in any other way, you can contact us via the website contact us page. Give us a little info about you, how you'd like to be involved, and what you would like to participate in, and we'll have somebody reach out to you. Again, if you have any questions about K9 specifically, you can reach out to us via the social media pages, our website, and we'll link you up with Natasha to talk about the programs. And yeah, so I guess that's it. Natasha, you have anything else you want to add?
No, just want to say thank you to all of our donors and our sponsors. We really appreciate it. We can't do it without you guys. So take a look at those adoption kits. They're really cute. So go take a look.
Yeah, I'd like to double down on that too. Thank you to everybody who's donated and who is a dedicated monthly supporter of our different causes. Like Natasha said, we can only go as far as our donations take us. And luckily, we have a lot of dedicated folks who have helped us really push the envelope over the last couple of years. And we hope to expand a lot more in the coming years, post-COVID troubles. And so thank you guys. And we hope that you guys are enjoying our projects. And we'll see you guys soon.